everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are talking about Dr. Stone, episode 17, 100 Nights and 1,000 Skies. But before we get into things, I do want to thank those of you who shared last week's Dr. Stone video over on Twitter, at HarrisonKVGC, at Isabella Copi, and at Nacho Gashardo. Thanks so much for sharing last week's video, you guys, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Dr. Stone video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Now with that said, if you can't hear it in my voice, I literally just finished the episode, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of emotional, but let's go ahead and really get into it. This episode, it's all about Byakuya. Like it is his episode, but it's also like the episode that explains how Ishigami Village came to be, which is a question probably on a lot of folks' minds, and also whatever became of the first generation and the generation following and following that and following that. I would have actually loved to have seen a little bit more of that, and that is, I guess, the only real issue I could see people having is that, damn, I could have totally watched like several episodes about these characters. I could have absolutely watched a full arc about Byakuya, but if that is something that you would be interested in, apparently the manga is actually receiving a spin-off that focuses on the time in between Senku and Byakuya. So focusing on Byakuya, apparently. It's going to be a spin-off. I believe it's from the same team, so that should be kind of cool. I think it's from the same writer and same artist, I think? I don't super know. Again, manga's not really my bag, but the fact that that's happening has me curious, and I'm hoping that it at some point gets like maybe like a 3-part OVA, something like that, like a little OVA series that spins out of Dr. Stone and focuses on Byakuya, because I would 100%, I would 1,000,000% watch that. I would 10,000,000% watch a spinoff with Byakuya in it, because that man is a legend, and his whole story, like the story of him, of Lillian, of Shamil, of like the whole crew, Connie, and all of them, like that whole thing, the tragic end, the lighthearted beginning, and the Goonies never say die attitude of that whole group is fantastic. And yeah, I'm still emotional. I can tell just by the way that I'm speaking. It's the first episode in a while, not just of Dr. Stone, but like of anything that got me like emotional. Like, you guys know that I get all misty-eyed at the drop of a hat, right? Like, I'm a very emotional dude. It's not hard to get me to cry, but this is like the first time in a while where I was like sniffling and like curled up in a ball, like, oh man, like why is it gotta be like this, man? Like, I was literally just like curled up curled up like L in Death Note with my knees tucked into my chest, sniffling and crying in my computer chair because of how emotional I was over this character who we really only got to explore for the last 2 episodes. I get why people love Byakuya so much. He's such a good character. Watching his 2-part journey, as short as it was brilliant. And especially knowing that it was all for Senku. All of it was for his son. And I did see some people in the comments of Crunchyroll saying like, oh, it's not even his biological son. To me, that makes it hit even harder. The fact that this man is like that, it doesn't, biological nothing. Like, none of that matters. What matters is that he's my kid. And Senku's the one who's going to save everybody. And this is all for him. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that when he comes back, because he's going to come back, he's still out there. And when he comes back, this world's going to be ready for him, because he's going to help save all of us. And I was like, yes. And it's emotional, right? I feel like anybody can connect with this story in some way, whether you connect more with Senku, like idolizing Byakuya and like seeing him as like top tier dad, or if you actually have a kid, you can easily relate to Byakuya being like, I would do anything for my kid. And that's the vibe you get here. Like, this feels like this story meant a lot. to the mangaka and like the team behind it, and even the folks over at TMS. Like, you could tell anybody who was involved with the story cared a lot about this particular moment, about the journey that Byakuya takes his fellow astronauts on in order to save humanity. And it was all like, especially the fact that it all leads back to Senku and everything about Ishigami Village was specifically gunning for this one moment. And it just hits so hard. Like, it hits with the emotional weight that Truck-kun would hit you with and send you off to Isekai Land. Like, it hits hard, and it is expertly handled, in my opinion. I thought everything about this episode was absolutely fantastic. From them landing on the island on the first night, to the first glimpse 3 years later, to the actual end of the crew that we know as Connie goes, and then Shamil leaves, and then the two astronauts whose names are escaping me, and then sadly even Lillian, and then finally Byakuya. Like, we see them all go, and it's genuinely it's just sad, because it's like, yeah, that's what happened. Like of course we know that they die, but it's just sad to see it. Like, sad to actually see like Shamil, like, actually, like, having these words of, like, listen, like, I never got to tell you this. I get emotional just thinking about it, but, like, I never got to tell you this, but the ramen that we had on the ship, I never got to tell you that it was good. Like, everything popped off immediately after that, but I never actually got to tell you that it was great, and it's been fun. And this was fun, and I was like, this is such a shonen thing. Like, this is so shonen to be like, to start getting emotional over ramen in space, and yet here I am. I'm such a sap. Everything about this episode, like, even the fact that they crash landed, I was like, oh man, are they gonna die in there? Well, they can't, because Lillian's in there. But when Lillian starts singing, and my boy rocks up in the boat, looking fine, by the way. I was like, Byakuya, damn. But, like, man, what a trip. What a trip of an episode. Goonies Never Say Die. I'm gonna have, that's got to be the thumbnail for sure. Or maybe not Goonies Never Say Die, but just Never Say Die, because that's how this episode felt. It was like, yeah, we're not going to be around to get to Senku. And you guys know, I said this last week, that any story with, like, time travel separating characters, it's a rare trope, but it always hits for some reason. For some reason, like, the whole separated by time thing always gets me. I don't know why. But seeing it play out here, and, like, knowing that Byakuya knew, and that all of them knew, that there's no way that they were going to cure the petrification before their time was up. And that Byakuya had the foresight to know that when Senku wakes up, he's going to need help, and he's going to need people who are prepared to help him. So not only does he make sure that there's generations upon generations to come following him, but also the fact that he made the 100 Tails specifically to help Senku's, like the, or not Senku, but to help his descendants, like, eventually be able to help Senku and be prepared to help him when he arrives. And the fact that the 100 Tails, right? Like, the fact that we've known that these characters know little things about, like, pop culture that they quote unquote should not know. And the fact that it turns out that, like, these were all stories told by Ruri, who was told the 100 Tails, like, over, like, that their people, like, learn the 100 Tails over time, and that it sparks creativity, like the whole minerals thing sparked Chrome to start, like, collecting rocks, and that in turn led to Senku being able to use his rock collection to help further the Kingdom of Science thousands of years later. And it's just, it's so good. And I want to talk to you about Chief Senku, right? Because this moment, Senku, to me, and the moment that he accepts, like, the role that Byakuya is set in front of him, that his dad told him, like, hey man, it's you now. Like, I can't do this. I'm passing the baton to you. I'm not going to be there, but I know you've got this, and I trust you. And that he passes the baton to Senku, I'm like, listen, I already knew Senku was top chief, top boy. But the fact that that moment to me, like, really encapsulated, like, okay, Senku is the leader. Senku is the chief, and I totally believe in him. And as if I didn't already, but like that moment really solidified it for me that I'm like, Senku is the chief of Ishigami Village. Like that's just the thing. And it's funny too that they even have, because I was thinking, I was like, oh man, like if they're like this is like some Luke Leia stuff, because like man, like Senku's related to Kohaku now. That's weird. But the fact is that they actually go out of their way. And this is a little like tropey and a little anime, but the fact that they go out of their way to be like, it was like over 3,000 years and we ain't even related. Like Byakuya and I aren't like related like that. Like we are descendants by law. Like we're not like that. And I was like, okay, you just wanted to make it so that I can ship Kohaku with Senku. And I mean, I do now that I know it's cool. But like I'm still gonna keep shipping it now that I know it's cool. But like you did that specifically for that reason, and like that I was like, oh, that's a little goofy. But at the same time, they had to say that because, and I mean, did they though? Because like even when people were bringing up like they're related, when I was thinking about it the other day, I'm like, thousands of years ago. I'm sure most people are related, like, after, like, thousands of years pass. I mean, it's still not cool, but it's still uncomfortable, but the fact that they actually, like, address it's like, no, you can keep shipping Senku and Kohaku, it's cool. I was like, alright, whatever. I guess the only other thing that I can really nitpick about the episode before I get to the last thing that I want to talk about is that, and this is the only thing about the episode that I'm like, damn it, like the only thing that held it back is, again, as I said, I really feel like they could have fleshed this out so much more and really give like the first generation beyond Byakuya and Lillian, like characters like Shamel, characters like Connie, and the other two whose names are escaping me, and that's not a knock against them. You guys know me, my memory is awful. But the other two who like sail off into the into the Grey Havens, as I've been one to say lately. But those characters too, like we could have fleshed them out a little bit if we had more time. But there wasn't, I suppose there wasn't manga material, so it would have had to have been anime only material, and I know people get all up in arms about that kind of thing, so like I get it. But like that's my only gripe, is I really feel like we could have fleshed it out. I feel like we could have like expanded it a little bit more, if only because I cared about Byakuya so much, and I would have loved to have seen the crew get a little bit more character development. But again, that's my only real gripe with it. The other big thing that, of course, I have to talk about, because there's no way that I couldn't talk about this, is the fact that my favorite villain, not just of this show, because there's only one really, but my favorite villain of just about like any show, this, like not just this season, last season, of the whole year, like of 2019, this character's one of my favorite villains. Tsukasa is coming. My boy's coming back, because that moment had me freaking out when Gen turns with that maniacal smirk and he's like, oh yeah, no, I gotta talk to your chief about something. And Senku's like, what is it, mentalist? And he's like, oh yeah, well it's just this little tiny hiccup that Tsukasa's coming and he's bringing his army. And he gives the smirk, and I was like, oh snap! I was not, okay, listen. I was not expecting this to happen so soon, and I'm so hyped. That's like, oh wait, we're gonna get the battle between the Tsukasa Empire versus the Kingdom of Science right now, and oh, I'm so excited. Like that had me so hyped. I was literally like I was all emotional, right? Like still curled up in my ball, but when I had just my little ball of emotions, and when I heard that, I immediately like uncurled from the ball, and I was like, yes! Like I went Super Saiyan with hype. I was so excited. This is why I love shonen, right? Because shonen anime is the most roller coaster of emotions that you can possibly go on, and the very best can have an episode that makes you real emotional and also real hype at the same time. And this episode of Dr. Stone totally nails that, like expertly nails that. I get why Shonen Jump fans were saying like, watch Dr. Stone when it comes out. Like I've been new, right? Like I read the first volume and I was like, this is gonna be important. But the fact that so many Jump fans were so excited, like I get it. Although when I say I get it, I mean like I got it in episode 1. You know, like I've been standing for Dr. Stone for so long, and you know that that's true because I never use the word stand, but I love Dr. Stone. So I've been here and I've been hype. And this episode just reaffirms all of those feelings. It's like, yes, this is good, and I can't wait for Tsukasa I can't wait for the next couple episodes. I am so excited. I am so excited for next week. With that said, everybody, I'm going to give this week's episode a very strong rank of A. It just misses that S because of a couple hiccups, but man, it comes super close. This is probably my favorite episode of Dr. Stone. On that note, everybody, that just about wraps everything up. But before we go, as always, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, and Verdon. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon, and hey, if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then by all means go ahead and check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get for as little as $1 a month, and get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. But on that note, everybody, that's going to be a video, so I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't going to tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.